Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the Q&A for the 300-hour online teacher training. I have a whole list of topics to go over because I am familiar with the questions that you all submit because I get them every year, year after year. And so I'm just going to dive deep into them all. And if there are any questions that come up for any of you that decide you want to ask something specific, you can use the chat. I'll check it, or you can send me an email after if you're not here, or you can unmute yourself if you are here. Okay, let's get right into it. I have several different topics. The first topic is kind of the structure and the schedule. So this training runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I have tried weekend trainings before, and people are distracted. It is really tough. I think people just want to get their work done during the week. And it's always more successful when we do it during the week. And I know Mondays and Fridays are tough. So the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule historically has worked the best. And the good news is we don't meet every week. So you have 2 full weeks off in between. So we meet every third week for module one. Then we have a long summer break. And then we meet again every third week in the fall. So training starts in March through May, September through November. It works out really, really well if you have a day job and can't make every session, no problem. What happens most of the time is because the way the schedule works, people in different time zones come for what works for them. So if you have a day job, most people can usually attend the last session of the day or the first session of the day. We have people from all over the world. So a lot of our Europeans and people from the UK, they miss the third session, they go to bed and they catch up in the morning. People from Australia and Asia, they do the opposite. So it works out really well. There's plenty of time to catch up on everything. We meet 90 minutes at a time with a 90-minute break. I do that because, again, like we can't be on the internet all day long. We're all exhausted and life is busy. So on those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we meet at 90 minutes on, 90 minutes off. So we have 3 90-minute sessions. That actually makes it pretty easy. If you do have a day job, you can kind of work around meetings. If you are, busy at home, the 90-minute breaks gives enough time for you to actually handle some things in your life, whether it's work related, personal related. I think like a 60-minute break, there's not enough time to do much, but maybe just eat. But with a 90-minute break, you can usually do like two things. You can usually eat and handle emails or run an errand or things like that. So the schedule has worked out very well. I get great feedback on it. It's not too much time, and 90 minutes is about all we can handle paying attention. So I start right on time. I end right on time. We don't go over. We start right at the beginning of the meeting. And that way everybody is ready to go and ready to learn. And I don't waste a single second in that 90-minute. There's no fluff. We just get right into it. There's always time for questions and all of that, of course, but like there's no, 20 minutes of small talk where we're waiting for people to show up. I always recommend that if you log on like 2 minutes late, which happens all the time because life, to go watch the recording of the first 2 minutes because you missed something because we start right away. So that's how it works. The recordings get uploaded as soon as they're ready. Definitely by the end of the day before I go to bed. I'm in Pacific time zone. But as soon as they're ready, sometimes they take longer to render depending on the quality of the video, if there's slides or not. But as soon as they're ready, they go up and then people can catch up, during the break. Sometimes you can watch it on 2x and catch up that way. So that's kind of how it works. It is an interactive training, however. So when I say you fine to miss sessions, it's not fine to not participate and keep up with the training. So I always recommend that, you attend as many sessions as you can. I recommend you attend partial sessions if you can. It's better to show up for 20 minutes and have to leave early than it is to just blow the whole thing off. It's just less to catch up on later. And it is interactive. It is a synchronous training. Like we are in it together with a specific cohort, and you do connect with your peers and work on little projects, and you connect with me. And I want you to have access to me and be able to ask questions so that I can answer them right then and there in the moment. I do not expect you to sub out your regular yoga classes. That's always a big concern. I want you to be able to apply all this education to your teaching. So in the beginning, when we have our first call, our first one-on-one call, we talk about your schedule, the schedule of the training, and we kind of come up with a little plan that works. So if you have to leave to go teach a class, no problem. You'll just catch up at a later time. Each of my sessions have a dedicated moderator, which is nice, so that I just have to focus on teaching. That means that the moderator takes attendance, helps out with any links that you all might need. If I'm like referencing page numbers, they put all that into the chat. And if you have any tech issues or attendance things that need to get communicated, you just communicate that to the moderator in the chat. And then that way I'm just focusing on teaching and being present for you all for the education. I think that's it for like the structure. If there's any questions, let me know. Let's talk about homework and like the workload. So I'll do in a little bit, I'll do a screen share of what the tech looks like, what the platform looks like. But the way the homework works is everything is issued up front. So when you get access to the course materials on January 1st, even though we don't meet until March 1st, you have like the whole assignment load handed to you. So you'll know exactly what is due when. I usually have some assignments due before module 1 and then some about halfway through, and then some assignments due before module 2 and then some halfway through, but all of them get assigned at once. So if you do better by like front loading all of your work and doing it in advance, great. If you do better doing it, as we're kind of working on it, great, that's no problem as well. I just want you to be able to manage your time, which is why I give everything up front. There are some things that I do recommend you read and think about before we meet, because we'll be discussing them as a group. And if you haven't looked into them, then you'll be a little bit behind. And that's why we'll have that homework due before we meet. But sometimes people don't have time, and it's okay to submit the homework later if you need to. Just try to read the articles or watch the video or something so that you can participate in the conversation. There's short reflective assignments. They're not quizzes or tests. The questions for the homework are open answer, and I read every single word that you write because it's the best way for me to get access to you and your thoughts. So I'm not looking for the right answer. If I'm giving you a research paper to read or a section in my book to read, the questions will be like, how did this inform what you think about this topic about osteoporosis and yoga? Did it change your mind? Did it reinforce your beliefs? What do you think, the control group or whatever, what do you think that their intervention included? Where can you find that? Like, was it clear? And your answer doesn't have to be like, well, this is exactly what the intervention that they did. Your answer could be, I really struggled to find what the intervention was. Is it just me that I couldn't find it, or were the authors not clear? Like, you can ask open-ended questions like that to me in your homework. I make notes of everything, and then I know who I'm teaching, and it just makes me a better teacher when I show up. So I get all kinds of great homework, like I get thoughts and anecdotes and, like, this was really cool and I hated this paper and things like that. It's all perfect. So yeah, the homework is for participation. You're not graded, I guess, because people get really nervous and think like I'm running university, and I'm not. So it's about critical thinking and reflection, right? Not memorizing things. Again, I read every single word. That's on purpose. When things used to be in person, I would, during a little break, get to chat with you. And this is my way of you chatting with me, right? You get to hear my voice all the time because I'm lecturing. And some of you all love to ask questions and raise your hand during Zoom meetings, and some of you just want to sit there like you're watching TV. And so the homework is the way to kind of, those that are more quiet, I get to like pull you out of your shell and learn a little bit more about what you're learning and what your background is and all of that. As far as the course materials and the access to them, you get, I say that the access to it is definitely for several years, but possibly lifetime. Recently, the tool that I use, which is Kajabi, changed everything about their platform. And I was only allowed a small amount of products before, but they changed that. So now most teacher trainings will have access for long, 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 long time to come. Before it was kind of an issue with like as I added more years of training, it was filling up my allowance, but that has changed. So I have no intention on taking it down anytime soon. And if I ever do take it down, you will get plenty of notice. You will get at least 6 months notice to review and download anything you need to. But I don't think that's as much of an issue for now. Let's see. As far as completing the program, so you get access January 1st. There's homework due March 1st. And then probably like April 15th, probably. And then again in October or September 1st, and then usually October 15th. I recommend that you complete the program. This is all 2027 by March 2028. There is a little after work to do once the course is complete where we meet. So you have to do like a final project for yourself. And so if we end in November 2027, then March 1st, 2028 is like a good timeline for that. Any longer, you start to forget some of the material. Any sooner, we push up into the holidays and no one has time. So March 1st, 2028 is the deadline, official deadline to complete the training. That said, I get people that submit their final project 3 years later, and it's fine. It just means that I might not prioritize taking a look at it because I'll have a different teacher training cohort that gets priority. The school is Yoga Alliance approved. We are a 200-hour, 300-hour school under the name Udaya. So when you complete everything, all of the homework and the final project and the small elective, then you'll get a certificate that you can upload to Yoga Alliance for your 500-hour RYT. Let's take a look at the tools. So let me screen share. And okay, I think it's up now. So this is this year's training, but this is what the inside of the curriculum looks like. There's all these different categories. These two up here that are different color are not course content, but more like administrative stuff. So like you click under course admin and readings, and you have all your Zoom links and where the recordings live. You schedule your one-on-ones in here. You have your required reading. And then other administrative documents like the schedule and things like that, the info sheet, all that lives under this section. The recommended reading, I'll just show you quickly, is on a web page. It's also inside the course portal. I share this in the follow-up email. I share this link, but these are all the books. And then these two are free downloads off the internet. And the only books that you read in full are Todd's and mine. The other three we just use parts of during the training. So that's the required reading. It's not too much. And if you're in a city or a country where it's hard to get books delivered, there are e-versions of these that you can use, and that's not a problem. Okay, so back to the tool, the inside of the tool. Here, let's go over the homework. So the homework, like I said, here's September 1st. This is module 2 homework. These are due October 1st. These are due March 1st. and April 1st. And so the homework looks like, this is an example. You listen to this podcast that Ariana and I, our research guest faculty, were on, or that we hosted to discuss this paper. And then you read the original paper, which is in some of the required reading that's downloadable that I send you. It's also right here in this section. And then these are the types of questions, like what points did Jules and or Ariana make that you agree with or disagree with, and why? Make note of some data you discovered in the paper that we didn't consider in the podcast. And what are your beliefs about the effects of yoga on bone density based on the evidence? So those are the types of questions that you'll get. And then you just fill them out right here, and it sends you an email that you completed it. I get an email that you completed it, and I get to read it. So that's what you can expect with the homework. Once we have our session and the recording is finished, the recordings get uploaded here to lectures if they're in my office, workshops if they're in my yoga room, practices if they're a yoga class, guest teachers if it was a guest teacher presenting, not me. Presentations and participation. This is like when the group is presenting as a whole. And then bonus content is material that is offered that is not in a Zoom session where we meet together. So sometimes I will add, like, you get access to book club, you get access to science is stretching webinar, you get some research literacy pre-recorded videos, you get some practices and yoga classes that I pre-recorded that I share with you, but that's not stuff that we did together on Zoom. So this is where lots of workshops as well, but this is where the bonus content lives. And that's really nice. You have access to all of that. Let's see. If you miss a session, let me go to a lecture. If you miss a session, like here's an example, sometimes you have to make up a little bit of work. So in this group, we did, or in this last session on osteoporosis, we had a small little breakout room where you had to design your own study. And I gave you a list of criteria and you guys had to talk in a group. And if you were in the session and in the breakout room, you got credit for it. But if you were not there, then I want to make sure you're held accountable for it. So you either do it yourself, or you can connect with somebody that was not in the session. And if you connect with somebody that was not in the session, then you can leave a comment and talk about what you did. So they're like small little things, these little last minute assignments. They are never big assignments, like big homework assignments. The homework all gets scheduled in advance. They're just, these little assignments are just little catch up things, or sometimes just if everyone's in a breakout room and let's just say you went together to do a little sequence. Sometimes I just want you to put the sequence in a comment. One person from your group will do it and name everyone in the group. And that way everybody can see what you did. We don't always have time to come back and share everything. So sometimes, like, name 3 poses to use for this skill. And then your whole group would just write your 3 poses. And then you have class ideas by seeing what everyone else wrote in the comments. But these little assignments that come up as the training goes are never more than a few minutes. So I'm not surprising you. You're never going to have to read an extra research paper all of a sudden and do, like, a 3-hour analysis. That will never happen. So that's how the curriculum is organized. It's pretty easy to follow. Where these links are found is also like under, I go to Zoom links and recording paths. So this used to be a Zoom link, and then when the Zoom meeting is over, then I just tell you where it's posted. So it's posted under lectures, under chapter 1, or here this is, under practices, under headstand, or under lectures, osteoporosis paper discussion. This would be under guest teachers. So everything is laid out. And of course, I'm always available. So if anything is difficult to find, you can always reach out. I notice that usually the first few meetings, I always spend a couple times screen sharing, helping people find things again. And then after that, it's pretty intuitive. The other tool that I use, this is the Kajabi, which is under education at julesmitchell.com. The other tool that I use is a Mighty Network under access.julesmitchell.com. And this is meant to replace Facebook. Not everybody's on Facebook anymore. So we have groups in here. This is a really nice community. It operates just like Facebook with different groups. Each teacher training cohort has their own group. And then my mentoring program is in here. And then these community discussion feeds are like what I call top level. So anyone that's in the network gets access to these feeds, which is kind of nice. But if you'll be in the 2027 group, but this is the 2026 group. So this is just for our group. And it's really nice to use during the training because email can get really bloated, especially mine. And this is just a nice way for us to communicate, share resources, and just, I can update you on small little things that are changing during the training. And oftentimes we have books we want to share, or there's a video that I think is worth looking into. And so we'll post that in here. It's just a nice little social network. Like this was a video from one of the slides, and I just shared it in here. And what's nice about this network is it's very searchable. So you can just type in Synapse for this, and everything will show up that you have access to. So we use both tools. All teacher training content lives here under education.julesmitchell.com. And all kind of social aspects, like think the way you'd use Facebook, lives here. So I'll never have like a homework assignment in here. It's just a great way for all of us to communicate. So those are the tools that we use. I think I can stop share. Let's see. Learning style and topic. Okay, so the topics are primarily biomechanics, somatics, pain science, and research literacy. Like those are the top topics. Obviously, within that, we look at a lot of poses since we're looking at biomechanics. We look at active poses and restorative poses. And we use restorative poses as a teaching tool to really break down the essence of a pose. Some people go on to teach restorative and some people don't. It doesn't matter. But the way that we use it as a model to look at the shapes of the pose and what we're interested in teaching about them, and why symmetrical alignment standards and right angles and straight lines don't work in human bodies. We look at all of that through restorative and then also through active poses. Obviously, we talk a lot about stretching and flexibility practices. That's just what my master's thesis was on. But how much we talk about that kind of depends on how interested people are. We cover some basic anatomy and mostly why you don't need to spend all this time memorizing anatomy. We spend a lot of time on biomechanics and specifically tissue mechanics, which is really what my book is about. So connective tissue adaptations, how that relates to injury, how that relates to aging, how that relates to pain, right? So, and alignment. If someone's knee is in the perfect position in Warrior 2, but it's hurting them and they're in pain, is that the right position? So we really kind of break down all of those topics. The curriculum is somewhat fluid. So what I mean is, I know the topics that we're going to cover, but how much we spend on certain topics versus others is really up to you all. I always joke, like, I know this stuff. I can lecture it to myself in 30 minutes instead of 300 hours. And so I really care a lot about your participation. I want to address the questions that you have. So if there's a day where everyone has a whole bunch of questions on the SI joint and how breathing affects the SI joint, I'm happy to do a deep dive into it and even run a second session on it. I can kind of manipulate things, and then we'll maybe talk a little bit less about partner stretching or something. So I am adaptable and respond to your interests, obviously, as long as it's within the umbrella content of the training. If we start, going down the road of like mental health, that's just not my area per se. For that, I would maybe give you some resources. But as long as it's under the pain science, biomechanics, somatics world, we can spend as much time on whatever topic is important to you. Um, Another thing we cover that I mentioned is breathing, but to me, that's biomechanics. Breathing mechanics is a big topic. Let's see, I've already shared with you the book list. Let's talk about the elective and the opportunity to study in person. There's two different things. So the in-person study is what I call the graduate gathering, although I've changed it now to the alignment, or sorry, the alumni gathering. That was a Freudian slip. The alumni gathering, where people who have studied with me can come in person. It's usually in Las Vegas in June, and it's about 4 days is usually how long I run it. And it's open to anyone who's in the training or has already graduated from the training. So we have people that come from all over the world. And what we do is really focus on some of the topics that do much, much better in person. The training does really well online. I've got a great camera setup in my yoga space where I can zoom in and out, and very high quality. But there are some things that are just kind of nice to look at bodies. So we do some of the partner stretching stuff. We do some of the restorative, like developing your eye for people's strategies and the poses. We have some really in-depth lectures on strength. And this last time we had a special lecture on sarcopenia because I've been researching that a lot. So we have kind of like updated versions of some of the lectures as things are progressing. The neuroscientist, who is our guest faculty member, she is here at UNLV in Las Vegas. So she comes and does a live lecture, which is always amazing. And I never give her any rules. So she always just kind of shares with us what she's been researching, which is always so exciting. We always have to tell her, okay, we're done. We're done. The time is over. Everyone has a million questions always. So that's a really fun thing to do if it can work in your schedule. We go to the bodies exhibit, we go down to the strip. Yeah, it's just, and if you've studied with me, you're invited. And it's really fun. And then the other part for the actual 300-hour is the elective. And the elective is meant to kind of diversify the teaching staff. So I encourage you all to find a South Asian or Desi teacher. And we go over this in the training, but everybody goes and looks for something that's interesting and then shares it with the group. So we have like a dedicated post where everyone shares what they found. And then you pick the one that's most interesting to you. I have Indu Vashist as a guest lecturer, and she always provides something. So it's about like the history of yoga, the politics of yoga. And if you're interested in that topic, you can take her extra course as an elective. The idea is just to elevate voices that aren't always noticed or heard in our community in the way we teach Western yoga. And it doesn't have to be anything big, like a few hours, a webinar or something, a small course, small weekend course, just something that satisfies the requirement, which is something that is taught by a DESI teacher that rounds out your education. So sometimes I have people take something on the Bhagavad Gita because they didn't have that in their 200-hour, or sometimes they take a pranayama course because they want to compare it to the way I teach breathing mechanics, or a bandha course because they want to compare it to the way I teach bandhas through biomechanical lens, things like that. It doesn't have to be expensive. Usually, I think the average is around $20 to $50, and the average is around 3 hours. It's more of the spirit of the assignment. I think the volume of education in my training is so much already. You don't need to add a bunch. One year, someone asked if they could do like a 500-hour Ayurveda program. I was like, yeah, you can do that, but maybe not as your elective. Maybe just do something smaller for the elective, finish this training, and then go on to do a 500-hour Ayurveda. Like that's a little aggressive for the intention of the assignment. But again, I will answer more questions about that as the training goes. We usually discuss it near the end of module 1. I think that's it on my list. Like I said, I'm pretty good at knowing what questions people have. I will say that you will make lifelong connections in this training. One of my favorite things about the training is how it attracts like-minded people and how uh, friendships really are formed. It's really great to see people that come to like my anatomy lab and then get to connect with people in the training, either in their cohort or even in previous cohorts. People connecting with others in the network, people connecting at the alumni gathering. It's really special. I feel very fortunate and proud of the community that I've built. My little tagline is, intellectually fearless. Like everyone that comes here is really eager to learn and not scared to not know it all, and actually like finds growth and development in learning how much there is to know and how much we don't actually know, and dedicating ourselves to focusing on what we can know. So I just recommend you join the training. It's the favorite thing I do all year. Every year, I look forward to it so much. We're about halfway to confirmation. We have half the year still. So I'm hoping we fill up soon and confirm the course and can get the materials out to you early. I just promised January 1st because that's like kind of the cutoff. But every single year, I've been able to send the materials out early just so you can have access and take a look. Gives you extra time to organize your calendar. That's it. If there's no other questions, then I'll end the call. If you have further questions and you're watching the recording will live in a lot of different places. It'll be on YouTube and it'll be sent out in an email. So you can, wherever you are watching the recording, you can leave a comment or send me a reply to an email and I will answer it. Hi, Anne, do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for all the
Hi.
information.
Yeah.
It sounds like from what you said, hi, the internet connection is unstable on my end in case things start to waver.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's plenty of time and opportunity in this course to answer all the kinds of oddball questions that come up. It does sound like I don't have to worry about asking you questions like what happens when your foot gets a cramp. I mean, it's stuff like that I kind of wonder about.
Yep. Yep.
So it does seem like you're available for this
100%.
kind of discourse, right?
Yes. I start every session
And
with,
my
are there
other
any questions?
question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a little concerned about taking an online course. Sometimes when I'm online, I get that kind of dead feeling like I'm not engaged enough, like I'm in person. This is like, and here I am signing up for a long-term online experience. What's your experience? Do people, I mean, just like teaching a classroom course, though, people do tend to have this sort of ebb and flow of attention. But what's your experience throughout this course? Is there active engagement throughout the whole thing? Is it easy to stay engaged? What's your experience as the teacher of this?
Great. Let me address that and partially the first question about questions. I'll put it all together. So yes, I know it. I know it's hard to pay attention online. So I am like enthusiastically involved in your paying attention. I'm not just like talking to a TV screen myself. I start every session with, are there any questions? And then I ask it 3 times to give people time to unmute their and then ask the question, right? And I'm always following up with questions. I'm totally accessible to everyone in the training. I will answer you usually within the day. Uh, that's what the social network is for. Like I encourage people to ask questions there so I can answer there so that everyone can see. Sometimes I'll get questions like you'll send me a DM as a question and I will say, this is such a good question. Please let me answer it in the next session so that everyone can hear the answer. I don't want to just tell it to you, right? So it is definitely about answering questions. The engagement comes from 2 things, 3 things actually. It comes from my enthusiasm for the topic. I get really, high energetically when I'm talking about all this stuff. So that helps. I don't have this like monotonous droning voice. That's the first part. The second part is the 90-minute sessions, right? The 90 minutes is doable. If we had a 3-hour session with a 5-minute break, those are tough. I do that for weekend courses, and that's really tough. This is 90 minutes on, 90 minutes off. You have time to go for a walk and have lunch. And most of the time I will say that. I will be like, go fold your laundry and feed the dog and also go outside, like refresh yourself, like don't spend the time doing homework right now. Like go and reset yourself. So that really helps. And that's why I said in the beginning, like the 90-minute sessions with the 90-minute breaks have been very, very successful. I get such good feedback on it. And then the other thing is I put you in breakout rooms, and it's not because of like forcing you for anything, but it's my way of getting you off the sidelines and onto the court. So I will put you in a breakout room. Like here's a great example for the headstand topic. I will say, okay, after we've discussed the research paper on headstand, then I'll put you in a breakout room with 1 or 2 other people in the training, and I'll say, okay, you guys own a yoga studio together. What is your headstand policy? Are you allowing your teachers to teach it? Not? Is there a requirement? And then you guys talk about it based on the paper and then come back. So it gets you using your words with each other, articulating your ideas. And so then when you come back and we share, it's always really fun. One time someone said, we decided not to go into business together.
No.
That was funny. But I'm like, it's that I want you to talk about the topics because when I'm talking, I can see, I say, does that make sense? And everyone nods, and I'm like, can you repeat it to me? Like, you know, can you tell me this? And then everyone's like, no. And so that's what the breakout rooms are. And that way you don't have to talk in front of a large group, right? That way it's like usually 1 or 2 other people so that you can have a small, safe container to get your messy words out. And then when you come back, I'm always like, does anyone want to share? And sometimes like the quiet person won't share, but someone in the group that's more vocal will say, oh, well, Ann and I were having this conversation and this is what came up for us. And then we get to break it all down. So those are like the 3 ways that keeps everyone engaged.
Okay.
And then also you do get mentoring calls with me. You get 3 one-on-one mentoring calls with me. So again, for those interesting questions, like what happens when your foot cramps, if you have one that you're not sure if it's the right time and the training to ask, you just write it in your journal. I always tell you to put like the first page or the last page for like questions that you want to ask me. And then the next time we have a one-on-one, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And can ask whatever. I get all kinds of questions about business or about cramping or whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. So it sounds like there's opportunities to develop relationships, which is
Yes,
really what makes these kinds of online
yes,
things come alive, is that
yes,
you actually feel like you know the
yes,
people who are apparitions on your
yes,
screen.
yes. I require it. That's why I'm saying like you have to, even if you can't make all the sessions, you have to show up to some sessions because it is part of the training to me is how you interact and learn from each other. Because like I said, I know this stuff. So you learn as much from each other and the questions that you ask and the way I answer them as you learn from me lecturing to you. Like they go hand in hand to me. That's my teaching style.
All right. Thank you for
Yeah.
answering that.
Yeah. Any other questions? No?
No, thanks.
Great. Okay, well, thanks for being here. I will get the recording sent out probably I usually say within 24 hours. That gives me a little wiggle room with rendering and all that stuff. So we get sent out. And if you have any follow-up questions, like I said, just send me an email or leave a comment and I will get back to you. I'll get the notification. Thanks. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.